Now we're only recording at 95%.
So you don't.
But
blow it
that's
out.
good
That's
enough.
only 95% of my power. Actually,
It
that's
really is.
Rip Shaggy meme. You were not near us or with us for nearly that long.
yeah. I think it lived its life just fine.
It was good that it was there when it was there, and it was good that it died when it died.
I suppose, kind of like Uganda Knuckles. It didn't
It is the natural life cycle of the meme.
of the good memes. I mean, there are memes that have more longevity, but they're more slow burners.
I mean, the Rickroll's been a thing
The
since.
Rickroll
what?
is not a slow burner.
No,
Like
the entire
Rick
big.
It's
Astley.
pervasively obnoxious, and that's the entire point of the meme.
Mm-hmm. So apparently, some speaker or somebody said like listed like the to-do list to live like a happy Catholic family life, right? And it was like, do this, then do this, then do this, and then people started taking that, and then they were like, get married, wife stays at home, never going to give you up, never going to let you down, never gonna, like things like that. So there were some creative iterations like that popped into my head, but yeah, it's weird when you see like the back half of a controversy and have no way of tracing it back to the source. So it's like,
Yeah, and most Twitter controversies are contrived to begin with.
right.
Contrived-to-versies. That didn't run very smoothly, but it's.
Can you imagine how nice, like on a certain level, it would be to be sort of like out of touch to the point where those things don't concern you? Like I am to an extent because I barely check Twitter, but like, we had famous Catholic speaker Trent Horn in town last week. I got to get a picture with him and add him
Is he
to
a
the
singer?
list. Yeah. My mom, she's like, who's Trent Horn? I'm like, Mom, you listen to Catholic Answers like every time we're in the car. Like, I do not know who Trent Horn is, but I can add him to the list of Catholic speakers I'm taller than. So that's my achievement, I guess. But at any rate, he's like, I feel like some days I'm the world's youngest boomer. And I was like, I can see that. And you know what? That's okay. Because he'll just like throw like TV show references from the 80s out there. He's like, come on, please tell me you guys know that. Dang it. But those were fun talks. I enjoyed those.
Mm-hmm. So how are things in seminary land?
Seminary land's
Have-
about the same as
Have
it's
you
ever
been unleashed yet?
I have been unleashed.
Okay,
yes.
good.
I was unleashed on Sunday.
Nice.
I had to quarantine for a small period because I was exposed to a fella who contracted the vid of the co-persuasion.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a few guys come down with it. So, yeah.
But your
had
test
to
came back
split.
negative?
But my test came back negative. I failed, and that's great.
Yeah. The one time you will celebrate failing in seminary. Although
Indeed.
it sounds like at your stage of seminary, it's not so academically focused as it is formation focused.
Well,
I mean, there's
it
like
is
that
at
level.
no point
Right.
more academically focused than formation focused.
I see.
I see.
It was weird.
Yes, of course.
I weekly men's group, and we watch the Knights of Columbus series and discuss it on Bishop Olmsted's Into the Breach Apostolic Exhortation for Men. And after the discussion petered out, we just started watching clips from The Simpsons. And it was really weird just to watch steamed hams all the way through normally. Because
No interruptions, no speeding up, no
Yeah.
changing art styles, no
Yeah.
Donkey Kong rap.
Donkey Kong Rap is my personal favorite.
I like that one a lot.
But
actually.
and I just managed to restrain myself from just whipping out all the references because, like, I mean, these guys do look at memes, but they're not the same sort of memes that this trio would traffic in. So I would just blur things out and nobody would know what I'm talking about. So
I mean, you do that regardless.
that's true. It's all I can do some days at work not to do that because I know for a fact nobody would get it.
Then they'll just look at you and think you're weird,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to you not saying anything and them looking at you and thinking you're weird.
I mean, I hope they realize that at least a little bit by this point anyway, but oh well.
That's how I feel on occasion out here. It's like there are some people who have some intersection with the things I enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
but there's nobody here who's as into memes as I am, and the particular sort of memes.
I mean, if
that
you
I'm
consider
into.
the sample size, it would make sense that there'd be a wide variety of seminarians and their tastes and
Indeed,
culture.
Mm.
we'll have to indoctrinate my classmates on YouTube poop.
We'll be having meme references through the ages in homilies forevermore.
Oh, I'm sure they'll be in there.
Imagine when millennials become priests. And
I mean, that
stuff,
already is
and-
kind of
I
happening.
mean,
They-
yeah,
they
that's
are-
currently
yeah,
what's in the process.
but
it's
like when that's the majority of priests you see
right,
out in the presbyterate.
that'll be a interesting time.
I
That's
was
for
clerically
sure.
speaking. I can say fancy words like presbyterate when I mean priest gaggle. But yes, it's memes in the new evangelization. Wait for that Matthew Kelly book to come out or something. The best version of your meme.
Best version of your meme.
Speaking of memes, we are the Palladian Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Riley.
Actually, yeah, speaking of memes,
Speaking of memes,
we are
Speaking
talking
of
about
memes.
something we've been planning on doing for a while.
that is correct.
And
And
is this
does
the
have-
inaugural episode of You Know What?
Yeah. We are talking about Undertale.
No. The inaugural
are we
episode.
doing the bumper?
Are we doing it?
Are we doing it yet?
This is 50.
I mean, we can.
We
Do
probably should have decided this beforehand.
I thought we were
probably
doing
should have.
that in episode 52 because this is episode 50.
Okay.
Because
Faith
52,
said
there's 52 weeks in a year. We've been releasing every week. Actually, that's not necessarily true, is it?
we
No, it's
skipped a
not.
couple of weeks?
You know what? Whatever. We're starting it off. This is the first segment of Gregarious Games. That was aggressive, but roll bumper.
And wow, what a bumper that was!
Wow, what a bumper. Shout out to Isaac.
My little
our
brother, he did a really
bumper
fun job with
producer.
that.
Yes, so this is something we've been meaning to do since the beginning of the podcast, and because I'm lazy, we didn't get around to it until over Christmas break.
Because neither of them had finished the game
Yeah.
until now-ish.
Mhm.
Even then, they haven't completed the full game. Anyway,
well, that and the bumpers.
well, yeah, the bumpers too.
So
We
we
should-
have
We should
Gregarious.
also write like introductory
Yes.
bits about our bumpers.
So we talk about
Anyway.
three major topics on this podcast typically. They're games or video games, movies, and books are the majority of what we
Sometimes a TV
Discuss.
show or two.
yeah and
I
TV.
think- I think TV shows dwarf the amount of books. we
Okay,
talk
okay,
about.
fair enough.
We
so
have
four major
Four.
topics.
4 weapons.
So I think
Phenomenal.
we'll introduce each segment and let y'all experience it for the first time, unless you're John, because we gave him a preview. But we have
Well, he helped us
bumpers now
record
for
them,
all, and some special occasion bumpers to be used here and there. So keep your
Mhm.
eye out or ear out for those. But yes, Gregarious Games is the theme for
When we talk about
when we talk about video games. So this segment is our first Gregarious Games segment,
And this,
fittingly on Undertale.
yes, Undertale is a RPG independently developed by Toby Fox. He came out in 2015, and it's a really good one. So the setting of the game is this kind of underground monster world. Because, like, many, many, many years ago, there was this great big human and monster war where they were fighting because war. The humans won because humans are awesome like that. And they forced the monsters to live in the underground, like a cave system under the mountain, and they sealed it up with a magical barrier that only the strongest of souls can cross. The character you play as is a androgynous male, generically human character, a child that falls into the underground one day. The default name for the character is Chara or Kara or something like that, just short for character, basically.
Isn't it Frisk?
No, that's
canonical name.
I'll get to that.
Okay. We'll get to that.
So we don't usually talk about gameplay when we talk about video games because it really is kind of ancillary to our main points.
Except for this
But
game.
in this game, it's kind
Dark
of a
Souls.
unique thing where it's kind of like an old school RPG where there's random encounters where you'll fight monsters and stuff. And you have the option to fight them. You have the option to act and talk to them and do other actions under the act button. And then you can also spare them. You can have mercy. But the mercy will only really be available when certain conditions are met, whether you've beaten them within an inch of their life or you've done certain actions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you defeat enough monsters, you'll get EXP and your level will go up and stuff like that. So it's very much inspired by old RPGs like Earthbound and the old Final Fantasies and Chrono Trigger and such.
When was this game released again? Was it
2015, like
2015?
October-ish, like in the fall.
Yeah, so just about 6 years old. So fairly new game, but already pretty well cemented.
5 years old is not
No,
old.
not really.
It is a very old game.
In
Okay,
internet
fine.
years.
It feels new to me because
That's because you played it for the first time earlier this year.
But then, like 5 years ago, doesn't seem like that long ago to me because 2015.
5 years ago is like 60 years in video game time.
Okay, fair enough.
So, you play as a human child who has fallen from the surface. And as you explore the earliest parts of the cave, you come across a tiny little flower with a smiley face who's all like, "Hi, welcome to the underground. I'm going to teach you about how things work here." And then immediately tries to kill you. Because turns out the flower's evil, and in this world, it's kill or be killed. But then, before the flower can end you, a lovely old goat lady comes along. Is like, "Oh, poor child, let me help you. I will hold your hand in this tutorial section through the like literally hold your hand. Her name is Toriel. This game likes its puns. So she guides you through the earliest area of the game, and it's like, "Oh, you can I'll adopt you. You can live in my house, and we'll have a nice little life down
we can
here."
Be a little family. It'll be nice. You can sit by the fire.
I can tell you cool snail facts.
We can eat pie. It'll be this whole thing. And you're like, but can I
want to go home.
I want to go back to the surface. And she's like, "No, don't leave the ruins." And she's like, "But no, I wanna." She's like, "Well, tell you what, I'm gonna blow up the door to the ruins so nobody can ever leave, and you have to fight me to prove yourself
that you're strong enough to survive out there.
Because out there, somebody's after you. The King Asgore will kill you because he's after humans." So after your battle with Toriel, you leave the ruins.
Yep.
And so the first thing you do is you find yourself in a snowy forest, and you are walking through the forest, and you come across two skeleton brothers, a short, stocky one named Sans, and a tall, thin one named Papyrus, and they're like the best characters in the game, I tell you what.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, basically your quest is to leave the underground. So it takes you on this journey. You meet all these characters. Sans and Papyrus are delightful and fun and silly. Sans is lazy bones. Papyrus is all uptight, and he wants to be part of the royal guard and
So
capture a
he's trying
human.
to set traps for you, and it keeps not working.
He tries to thoroughly jape you, but it never really works because he always either solves the problems for you or like it's a stupid problem.
Forgets something super obvious.
So eventually you make your way past them and you fight Papyrus, and he's like, well, later you have to meet the head of the royal guard, and she's nasty. She's mean. She'll probably try to kill you, but don't worry, you can be friends. He's like the most optimistic person. He's like, we can be friends. We could even go on a date if you want. And you're like, yeah, Skelebro, bye.
Yep.
Then you go through the next area is the waterfall area, where you have Undyne, the fish lady captain of the royal guard, chasing you around. She throws spears at you, and it's this whole thing. In the waterfall area, you find like these wall writings that talk about the history of the world, of the monster world, and there's it details about how the humans were able to overpower the monsters because human souls are like so powerful that it would take like 1,000 monster souls to equal one. So it's like their pure power and vitality was just too much for the monsters to overtake, and so they were easily subdued. Also, humans have this inherent trait called determination in this world, and every time you stop at a save point, something fills you with determination, and that's the spot you come back to. More on that as this story develops. So at the end of the waterfall area, you face off with Undyne in a fierce battle where you bravely run away, and it's very tough, but also very fun.
Bravely ran away.
So that's the waterfall area. Next area is Hotland, where the first thing you do is you meet up.
Where the best overworld music in the game is.
Oh, absolutely. And this game has fantastic music. It's a bop.
Yeah, it's like one of the core elements of this game that make it great.
Absolutely. So in Hotland, you meet up with King Asgore's royal scientist, Alphys. And she's like, hey, I've been watching your movements this entire time through my cameras that have been everywhere that you may or may not have noticed if you explored enough. I'm kind of rooting for you now, but there's an evil killer robot on the loose because I made it to kill humans, and then
I didn't realize how nice you were. I mean,
because yeah,
she's kind of got a crush on you, but pretends like she doesn't.
She wants to find validation in being able to help somebody. That'll come in later. But then in comes Mettaton, freaking rectangle robot man, who's like he's an entertainment robot, so it's entertainment first. So he's like, his first battle with you is like a quiz. Then the Cid's second battle,
everything into a game show.
Right. The second battle is like a newscast where you have to find and defuse all the bombs. Then he does this play where it's a rectangle in a dress singing a love song to you.
And it's a cooking show.
There's a cooking show. It's all just very over the top and ridiculous. And every like little thing you find yourself in, Alphys conveniently has the solution at the end so that you don't die. Because
she gives you a cell phone and she sends you
she's talking to you the whole time on your cell phone. You get to the end of the Hotland area, and Mettaton's like, I'm going to clue you into something. I'm not actually a killer robot. I was just made to look like one by Alphys. She just kind of wants to keep you around so she can feel like she's helped. She's inserted herself into your story as this hero. And I don't care. I want to go to the surface so I can make it big, be an entertainer, because that's what I was born to do. You flip his switch and he becomes all fabulous, and then you have a battle with him, and it's this whole thing. The song's a bop, though. So that's kind of that area. So as Alphys is walking you to the final area before the king's throne, she's like, by the way, the barrier, one human soul alone can't cross it. You either need like 7 human souls combined to destroy it, or at least 1 human soul and a monster soul to cross it. King Asgore thus far has, over the years of humans accidentally falling into the underworld, accrued 6 human souls, and so you're the final one. If he kills you, he can basically ascend into this god-like state, destroy the barrier, and set his monsters free. Or you can kill Asgore, take his soul, and then cross the barrier and go home yourself. that's kind of the option laid before you. And depending on how you played the game, it's like, well, either you'll deem it necessary and do it, or you'll, try and spare him because that's a thing the game encourages.
Mm-hmm.
So here's where things can kind of start to branch off. There are actually 3 endings to the game. One ending is kind of the neutral ending, which is the one you're likely to get if you don't, if you
are playing it really truly blind.
Yeah, if you're playing it blind like any other RPG, or even if you're playing like True Pacifist and don't do all the side questy things, you'll get the neutral ending.
Personal favorite, Temmie Village.
Oh, well, we can talk about stuff like that. That's not it. That's a
Foreshadowing.
non-important
Right,
side thing,
but
it's very, very important. Make no mistake.
the most important. It's the key to everything. So no,
such importance.
as we're approaching the King's throne room, we sort of get a lore dump on us, where we start to learn about the king and the queen and their son Asriel, and how they adopted the first human to fall down from the surface. The human fell, and they're like, oh, let's adopt it and basically make it our child. And so the human child and Asriel kind of grew up as siblings, but then one day the human died and everyone was very sad, and the human's last request was to see the flowers from their home village. So Asriel, to kind of fulfill that wish, absorbs the human's soul so he can cross the barrier and lay the human to rest at its home, at their home village. But all the humans around are like, oh, look at the monster that killed the child, and they ran Asriel out of town. And spent by the pure soul energy that he can't contain because he's but a mere monster, he gets home and collapses on a bed of flowers and turns to dust. And the king got mad, the queen got sad, and then it was like, well, I'm going to kill every human that comes down here so that we can finally break free and have our justice against the humans. That's kind of the lore dump that happens. So immediately following that, you walk into this great ornate hall where you meet Sans, who's like, hey, I'm going to take a look at your stats and judge you. Because guess what? EXP, that stands for execution points in this game. And LV stands for your level of violence. So basically, the more you hurt people, the easier it becomes to hurt people, and the less you hurt while hurting people. The more evil you do, the greater capacity you have to do more evil. And so he judges you based on how many monsters you killed. In a neutral run, it'll be like, yeah, you fought when you had to, but did you have to? In a true pacifist ending, he'll be like, you know what? You're all right. And I'll get to the third option later. So then you fight Asgore, who breaks your mercy button in a fourth wall breaking action. And he's like, you're forced to fight me. And so you're forced to fight Asgore within an inch of his life. And he's like, and it's only after he's like almost dead that he gives you an option to spare him. And regardless of what you do, Flowey will pop up and be like, hi, I'm the flower from the first room. It's me. I'm going to steal the human souls and become a monstrous photoshopped face with plants coming out of it.
Because Asgore has 6 human souls.
He already has 6 of them, yeah.
Yep.
So Flowey absorbs those 6 and boots you out of the game. He takes over. It's his game now. You can't save or reload or anything because you don't have as much determination as he does. He's got 6 human souls. You got 1. And so you eventually fight. So you keep trying to fight this abomination of a photoshopped monstrosity because the entire game's pixel art up to this point.
Every time you die, it literally closes the window. It closes the game down, and you have to restart it.
It boots you out. It's so fourth wall breaking. So anyway, eventually you get to the point where the human souls within Flowey revolt and join their powers to you so that you can defeat the flower guy.
A la Philosopher's Stone and Famab, but kind of a little bit.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Like that.
Anyway, so you with the help of the souls beat Flowey, and then at the end there's one final screen where it offers you the choice between sparing or killing Flowey, and depending on how determined you were to stay on your goal of honesty and mercy, you could choose to spare him, or you could take out your frustration on him and kill him, like one of us in the room did. Anyway,
I spared him.
You're not
Just
in the
putting
room.
that out there.
so that's the neutral ending. And actually, if you don't kill Flowey, after the credits, he'll pop up and say, "Hey, there's a way you could get a better ending. You could have been better friends with these characters. You could have been done this and that." And so, if you play the game over again, or just do what he says and go, talk to the other characters, you'll start your way down to the true pacifist ending, like the good ending. And after doing some side quests, that'll lead you into you'll go back to Hotland and to Alphys's lab, and underneath there is the true laboratory, where it's all spooky and misty, and there's these creepy, eerie blob creatures that have like messed up text and don't have names, and it's this weird thing. You read the little notes on the wall left by Alphys, and it turns out that she had been commissioned to do some like experiments on human souls to see if they could like replicate their power and try and break the barrier. So she isolates the trait called determination, this will to proceed after death, to the will to continue and live. And she's like, well, what if we isolated this and injected it into monsters? Well, it worked at first, but then the monsters' bodies couldn't take it, and they started to melt and meld together and become these amalgamation creatures you're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a failure, and she's all ashamed of that. And then one day she's like, you know what would be interesting? What if we tried instead to give determination to something inanimate? What happens when something that doesn't live gains the will to live? And so she's like, I'm gonna try this on a flower. And then the flower went missing, and she's like, oh crap, oh shoot, that's not cool.
Nope.
So anyway, you make your way through the lab and learn all this information. You fight the creatures, you solve the puzzles, and Alphys is like, you know what? I'm gonna come clean. I'm gonna let these, let the families of these dead monsters that are kind of zombies right now, I'm gonna let them know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of help lift that weight off her shoulders. And then you proceed to the true final fight. So you're faced off to Asgore, face to face again. And this time, other characters start showing up. Toriel comes in to break up the fight, and she's like, turns out Toriel is the queen who left Asgore, by the way.
If you couldn't figure that out from the fact that Asgore and Azriel
And Toriel.
his son, you put those together and you see how you get.
Not only that, they're both goat-like creatures, and even
and they use
Asgore's
fire spells.
They use fire spells. Asgore's boss theme even quotes Toriel's boss theme as like part of it's. So yeah, there's definitely connections you could have made, but
Yeah.
But then Papyrus and Sans and all the characters show up and say, "Hey, don't kill the human. They're our friend." And but it turns out they were all set up, and it was all a evil plot by Flowey, because he not only takes the 6 human souls, but every monster soul in the Otherground, equivalent to 1 human soul. So he essentially has 7 human souls and descends into his final form, which is the king's son, Asgore's son, Asriel. So it turns out that Flowey all this time was the Goat Kid. And so there's this final fight where you have to free the souls within Asriel through the power of friendship, and then eventually work your way into Asriel himself and try and bring him back from the brink, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this. So after you the final fight, Asriel's all like, "Yeah, I was just really, really sad and empty as a flower. Turns out, being a soulless creature of pure determination is not a cool existence to have.
No.
When you're a mixture of, dead goats and flowers and determination. Not a cool thing to be, and it.
No.
We'll go into more how that existence really messed him up later, but suffice to say, he's like, character name. I know you're not actually character name because the character you named died a long time ago. The name you give the fallen human is the first fallen human. The character you've been piloting this whole game is actually named Frisk. So that's the difference there. So after the true pacifist ending, Flowey uses, or not Flowey, Asriel, who is formerly known as Flowey, he breaks the barrier with his power and then sets all the other souls free. And so then you and the monsters can go to live in the surface and live happily ever after. The end. Until you get curious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, I've played the game normal. I've played the game where everyone lives. What happens if everyone dies? And that's the third ending, known colloquially as the genocide ending, in which you go through every single area, every single room, and grind, killing every single monster in every single room. It's a long and tedious process, and that's on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get this ending by accident. You're doing this to satisfy an urge, a need to know.
Mm-hmm.
So it plays out very differently, actually, because eventually none of the monsters start to recognize you as human even anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So you just kind
all of the towns start to become deserted.
Yeah, nobody's home. Everyone's trying to flee because they know there's a real monster on the loose.
Mm-hmm.
So you play through the areas as normal. You get to about Undyne, and you one-shot her. You kill her in one hit. But then she has this moment of determination where she tries to persist, and she becomes one of the hardest bosses in the entire game. But you eventually kill her because, of course, you do. That's your mission. That's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You continue your killing spree, all the way up. Mettaton gets a new final form that's even more impressive looking than his last one, but you kill that in one hit.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has become completely unsatisfying in just the amount of power you wield.
Mm-hmm.
All of the boss fights are just one shots.
Aside from Undyne. And
aside from Undyne when she goes into battle with a true hero.
And then one more, but we'll get there.
We'll get there.
So on your way up to the final Judgment Hall, Flowey pops up again. He's like, "Hey, you're taking my advice. It's kill or be killed. This is fun, just like old times, right? I was just like you once. I used to have all the determination and I had the ability to save and reload. And I started out trying to do nice things. Started out saving everybody and helping everybody and doing everything right. But then things got predictable. Things became they became little more than numbers and lines and dialogue lines.
Mm-hmm.
I could see everything. So I'm like, well, what if I just killed one of them? And what if I killed all of them? And so the more he did this, the more just kind of hollow and violent and empty he became, until we came along and made things interesting, like old times with his sibling, the character name. He's recognizing you as the first human that fell.
Uh-huh.
Because it turns out they weren't a terribly good person. They were kind of mean. They were kind of resentful of everything and everybody.
Oh boy.
And so, in some way, this new human that fell down is almost a reincarnation of them, but also the character is kind of a stand-in for the player.
Mm-hmm.
It's really meta and fourth wall breaking. Anyway, you get to the Judgment Hall, and then there's Sans, and he's like, "Hey, you've been pretty busy, haven't you? I've got a question for you. You think even the worst person can change? Or how about this? You want to have a bad time?" And so you fight Sans, and if it's your first time playing this, he'll annihilate you in his first hit. Because it'd be like that.
Yeah.
You show up later and he's like, "Hey, you look pretty irritated about something. Looks like I'm pretty good at my job." And then you fight him again, and Megalovania starts up, and it's this whole thing. And the more times you die against him, the more he's like, "Hey, you look like someone who's just lost twice in a row." He starts to let on that he kind of knows what's up. Mm-hmm. He kind of knows about the whole saving and reloading thing. He kind of knows about all that. And the more you talk to him, the more you fight him, the more he's like, that's kind of why I'm lazy all the time. It's like at any moment, this could all be reset, and I don't think I can give it. I don't ever feel like giving it my all. But the one thing he can do is break your determination.
Mm-hmm.
The only way he can win this is if you quit.
Mm-hmm.
Because your determination to beat him is the only thing keeping you fighting him. Also that and wanting to listen to Megalovania again.
Yeah, there's that.
So you fight him more. He even gives you an opportunity to spare him, which is a total bait. Where it's like if you decide to spare him, he'll like one hit KO you, and it's like, if we're really friends, don't come back.
Yep.
So yeah, you fight Sans until he's completely tired. By the way, if you check Sans' stats, he only has 1 HP. But every time you attack, he dodges because he's like, I'm not gonna stand there and take it like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So
his description reads the weakest enemy.
It's and all of his attacks only do 1 hit, but like they do 1 damage for every second they're in contact with you. So like one hit goes through you and it'll like tear through your
audibly gesturing a health bar going down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, if you're determined enough and are good enough at the game, which you spent this entire genocide run not interacting with the dodging mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
If you beat Sans, it's sad and he dies, and then you go to Asgore's chamber, and Flowey kills Asgore. It's like, hey, look, I killed him for you. We're friends, right? Don't give me that look. What are you doing? And completely without player input, Kara murders Flowey in cold blood. And from there, you're just left with you and like the creepy sprite of the child, and it's like, hey, yeah, I had fun. How about I'm gonna jump scare you now.
Oh goodness!
And then that is the end of the genocide run.
Dang.
You basically this actually. Prior to the jump scare, Kara's like, you know that feeling you get when a number goes up? You know how satisfied you get when you beat somebody and you see that sweet EXP go up or that level go up and your health and stats go up? Mm-hmm. That's me. I'm that.
Oh boy.
So anyway, that's the morbid note that ends on.
Uh-huh.
Then you crash your game, and if you try and reload it, he'll be like, what are you doing here?
Mm-hmm.
You've already done the things. Do you really want to go back that bad? You've destroyed this world. Go to another world to demolish and destroy. We've had our fun here. You can eventually get him to reload the world and like reset so you can play the game again. But you'll never be able to get a good ending ever again on that save file. You have to completely uninstall the game because every time you get a good ending, there's a dark twist. There'll be like X's on the photograph of your friend at the end, or like just a murderous glint in your eye as Toriel serving you pie. It's this whole thing.
Dang.
So
See,
that's
I've only played like the neutral ending.
right. I haven't personally played the genocide ending. I've seen it played, and there's a moment in the genocide ending where Flowey's like, I bet there's some people who wanted to follow this curiosity but didn't have the guts to act on it. I bet they're watching this right now. This game doesn't acknowledge the fourth wall at all.
Mhm.
It just doesn't exist for this game.
This is the game. The game.
So there you go. That's a summary of Undertale, which was kind of long, but
But lots to unpack there.
lot to unpack. So for cool stuff about the game,
Mm-hmm.
this game has a lot of character.
Oh yeah.
Like every sprite, every song, every line of dialogue is just dripping.
Every NPC,
character.
every
Despite
like
the fact that everything is like super, super low poly pixel art, like
mm-hmm.
the
Mhm.
amount of effort put in like graphically on the sprites was pretty minimal.
yeah.
But it is none that like your eyes are literally just like 1 pixel black dots.
Mm-hmm.
But despite that, the characters are just so incredibly, they just have such developed personalities.
And this
Mhm.
game was developed by one guy.
Primarily, he had a little help here or there. One of the contributing artists was named Temmie Chang,
Mm-hmm.
and she kind of got a self-insert character with the Temmie that lives in Temmie Village, like
Cat.
all of the Thames.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just another area. It's like, why does this exist? And yet I
Hoy.
love it.
Temmie Flakes.
Hi, I'm Temmie, and don't forget my friend Temmie. Hi, I'm Temmie. Don't forget my friend. Hi, I'm Bob. So funny.
Like, because there's Doge, or is it Doggo?
There's like the annoying dog,
Mm-hmm.
and
there are
he
many dogs.
there
in
are
fact.
good many heckin' good boys.
Yep.
The
There
lesser
are
dog
lesser
is the one
dogs?
where you pat it and the
Yep.
head gets taller.
Yep.
You pat it again and the head
It
gets
just
taller
so
again.
happy, you know? Yeah.
And then there's Greater Dog.
Who's like a tiny little dog in like a huge suit of armor, and he's got one of the derpiest songs in the whole soundtrack, and it's so good.
Yep. And you have Papyrus and Sans, and they're good fun.
And they have just this chemistry that feels natural. You got the uptight guy and the laid back guy, and it's like this whole thing.
Sans is
And
the biggest troll.
they have dialogue boxes, all the characters when they speak. And Sans, when he speaks in the font Comic Sans.
Mm-hmm.
And when
And Papyrus speaks in the font Papyrus.
and it's
Those of you who grew up using Microsoft Word know exactly what we're talking about.
there's just so much like that, and like even the one-off mini boss characters, like the ghost guy or the mad dummy or the
Mhm.
spider girl, they're like just so
Spider
fun.
is rough.
Oh, good, great song though.
Oof,
Dude.
man,
Spider
that's probably the one
Dance,
that stressed me
one-
out the most.
Spider, I found Muffet to be one of the easier fights, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I think it
You
was
just
Maybe it was just the giant cupcake spider chasing you from the bottom of the screen.
well that, and then like
the
the
restriction of only being able to jump between 3 lines and not having total
yeah,
movement over the box.
yeah, and then like the box would like move around and stuff like that too. But
So like really memorable and full of character for just a mini boss. So
mhm.
good. So
I
yeah,
think another thing that really contributes to the personality is the music.
Oh, for
oh,
sure.
absolutely.
The music, almost every piece makes you really feel something, and that something you feel is exactly what that character is feeling in that moment.
Right.
Mhm.
You listen to Papyrus's theme, and it's silly and it's goofy, and yet it's epic, and it's kind of it fits the character. And then you listen to Undyne's battle theme, and it's like you're being punched in the face by the biggest hero in the town,
Mhm.
and it's there's just so much like that.
Mettaton is just
When you meet him in like his square
Metal
robot
Crusher.
form, it's Metal Crusher. It's like a song being played on a floppy disk.
yeah.
And it fits the quirkiness. Like,
And it's all in like these 16th note kind of just
Very
waving
choppy,
lines.
mechanical.
mhm.
But
Yeah.
but then the melody is just like so bouncy because this robot is just kind of crazy. Just like I'm gonna kill you.
So
Next up on our show, it's really groovy.
It's so good. And so, yeah, everything contributes to this overall atmosphere that's just so full of character. Like,
The Flowey fight on the neutral run is just sheer panic.
oh, yeah.
and despair and Lovecraftian horror.
Because the
It's-
entire game you spend in, like, this pixel art world that's, like, very limited and rudimentary. Like, it's somewhere between the NES and the Sega Genesis in terms of its, like, visuals. But then you get to the final neutral run fight against Flowey, and it's like somebody's face horribly chopped up in Photoshop and rearranged with all sorts of plant parts and stuff, and it's just really weird and unsettling, and it's so good.
Seemingly undodgeable attacks. And just it's wild. And it sort of gets into your head a little bit too, because like it closes the window, and every time you open up the game, it's like, ha, you thought you could just load a save, but nope, you're all mine now. So the only way out is to beat Flowey out of this cycle.
And that's another cool bit of the game is how it uses the medium of video games itself
Yeah.
and the expectations of what it means to sit down and play an RPG. It takes your mindset of your average gamer and plays with it. It pokes at it. Any way you like to play your games, it's got something in there directly made for you, or something to say about you.
Yeah.
It has something to say about the attitude with which we play video games and how we treat enemies and NPCs in video games,
Particularly role playing games.
particularly
Like
RPGs.
I'm
Rivers.
always on about. James.
Because like every monster character every individual enemy monster you fight has a little personality, and you've got to figure out what their thing is in the dialogue options in order to like save them, or in order to not kill them, I should say. Whether that's like laughing at their awful jokes or washing them off, or
Or
just
letting them wash you off.
or just
Yeah.
ditching Jerry.
Or
Is that like the Jello looking one?
No, there was like he looked like a giant nose.
Oh yeah, it's like you just sort of ditch him.
You and the other monsters ditch Jerry.
Yeah.
It's so good.
or the Sundar plane.
You get close, but not too close, because it's not like it likes you or anything.
And then what was it, like the frog blinks back at you or something like that? Or no?
No, you wiggle at the Jello guy.
Oh yep.
It wiggles back. What a meaningful conversation. So each of the monsters individually has so much character that it's like it endears you to them, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of gives you an incentive to save them. But if you approach
Yeah.
this with a mindset of like Pokemon or whatever, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll just
Gotta
fight
catch
the
'em all.
monsters. You know,
I'm gonna slap that thing.
I'm gonna slap that. I'm gonna get a bigger level so I can take more hits from Undyne. Because oh boy,
Yeah.
that's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I like it when games tell stories you couldn't tell in any other medium.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no way Undertale, the things it was trying to say and things, the
You
points it
wouldn't
was
be
trying
able
to
to
make.
see a book, read a book that would. I mean, you could plausibly write a book that's this meta, but
But the method
would
of
be
being
unique.
meta and the things it would say while being meta would be unique to books.
yeah, precisely.
Same with a movie or a show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with a video game, there's like that direct player interaction, and this game really, really takes that to a new level. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Good
those are some cool stuff about the game, and it's like you could do individual character studies
Yeah.
for like pretty much every character
down the
'cause
line. Yeah.
They're that in depth.
Yeah.
I mean, I
And
especially
you
like
have the opportunity to hang out with them in like a casual environment without them having all of their battle armor on and stuff.
Right.
Oh,
I
yeah.
personally enjoyed hanging out with Papyrus.
That was so good.
I
guess-
could not find. I also loved hanging out with Napstablook.
Just sitting on his floor, feeling
He's
like
like,
garbage as the
"Hey."
universe melts away.
Hey man, I want you to listen to this song with me.
I'm
And then you just lay on the floor in his house, and then there's just like this galaxy scene that appears behind you as you're both sitting there, feeling depressed.
It's like the real life equivalent would be like just listening to a Pink Floyd album with your really depressed friend.
right, just laying on the floor, feeling like garbage. It's a family tradition.
Oh my gosh.
So
How do you get to this bit?
you
Or is this like in the village where you can just go to people's houses?
it's later, like when you're on the snail farm, and you can go to his house and talk to him.
Oh,
You just didn't lay on the ground for long enough, because if you let it sit, that'll happen.
oh, okay.
You gotta listen to his various tapes
Mm-hmm.
that he's got along the wall.
'Cause-
I forget.
His name's
What I did.
Napstablook, like Napster, like music sharing, and
Mhm.
again,
I
this game
forget. I
loves
think
its
I might
puns.
have done that. It's been a while since I played it. A couple months.
I could not find Undyne though. I figured you could probably hang out with her because Papyrus said you could. I could not figure out where she lived though.
She lived by Napstablook's house. Actually, she's in the giant fish house. It's actually really great. You and Papyrus show up, and Papyrus shows up for his weekly training, which is a cooking lesson,
Mm-hmm.
and so but then he like bails and jumps out the window, leaving you alone with Undyne. And she's like, "Well, I tried to kill you," and so you like have to challenge her to be no. Papyrus shows up and is like, "I bet you couldn't be her friend if you really tried." And she takes that challenge, and so she starts cooking noodles with you, and you burn down her house. And it's this whole thing.
I see.
Then there's just like along the way, you can also like Sans will pop up and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?
Mhm.
Just wanna go get dinner or something?"
Oh yeah,
And
like he'll like take you to the bar and talk to you for a bit.
Right. Well, I think my favorite interaction is like later in the game when he's like, when he tells you about how he actually knows Toriel
Mm-hmm.
and how it's like, hey, they
It
like
gets really serious for a minute.
right. He met her through their shared love of awful jokes. And
Oh
and
yeah.
she's like, and he's like, one day, she was like, she said, if a human ever comes through this door, be sure to protect him. And it's like, well, kid, if I'd have never taken that promise, you'd be dead where you stand.
Yep. And it's just like,
Oh. He's like, hey, but I've been doing a pretty good job. You haven't died one time. What's that look? Am I wrong? It's like even like 3/4 of the way through the game, they start like poking these hints, like people know you can die and reload. Like
mhm.
even during the Asgore fight, if you try and talk to him, it'll say you told Asgore he killed you already, and he's like sadly nods.
Uh-huh.
So good.
Yeah. So, did you just play through the neutral run, Riley, or have you done?
I
any other-
have played only through the neutral run.
Okay. That's something
I
I'll
was
have to go back
familiar
and try to
with-
get the good ending at some
With the
point.
pacifist, which I consider to be the only actual ending.
Right. It's like
Because the neutral ending doesn't really end anything.
right. The good the
The
true
neutral
pacifist
ending is sort
ending.
of an introduction.
in a way.
Yes, in a way, because at the end of it, you decide to spare Flowey, and he's like, I want to challenge you to kill nothing. To spare every single thing. And if you do that, I won't kill the king. So it's like almost acknowledging, and if you you can reload your save file at that point, and it puts you back before you fight Asgore. So in reality, you haven't actually ended the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, no sense of finality has actually happened. So, in my opinion, the neutral ending is not in fact an ending at all.
It is
If you
merely
kill
a beginning.
Flowey, you kind of just like get pushed towards the genocide ending, and if you spare him, you get pushed towards the true pacifist.
Mm.
Actually, that's another really good thing. If you first time you play the game, and you get to the fight with Toriel, and you end up killing her because you don't know what else to do,
Which happens
which happens most of the time
because
if
it's not
you're playing it
obvious how
blind.
not to kill her.
Right. You'll have this confrontation with Flowey immediately after her fight. If you decide to reload your save before you fight Toriel and figure out how to spare her,
Mm-hmm.
Flowey will be like, "I see what you did there.
Mm-hmm.
You won your way, but just wait until someone you can't spare shows up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can fool me." So early on, the game like lets you know. It lets you
It
know.
knows what it sees right through you.
It's so well put together, so well thought out.
Yeah, it's sort of a new way of challenging the player in that it calls you out for the way you play the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I guess with all that we can get into our transcendental analysis.
Indeed.
Bumper TBD, possibly, maybe who knows, but we'll get there.
I didn't think we were doing a bumper for this.
I didn't think
No.
so either.
Anyhow, so truth. What truths can we pull from Undertale?
Well, the EXP and leveling up system holds a nugget of truth.
Yeah.
The more evil you do, the more inclined you are to do evil, the easier it becomes. It
Mhm.
becomes the easy way out.
Yeah.
It becomes almost trivial at a certain point.
It becomes all you know how
Like,
to do and all you can
Almost
do.
no effort, and it's like the automatic thing to do, and you just instantly get the result you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So that was an interesting little thing that it calls out about playing video games. It's about that truth of like if evil becomes your default response, that's all on you. You made every decision up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it challenges you to avoid making the evil decision at all costs. The true good ending only comes if you avoid evil at every turn,
Mm-hmm.
at every opportunity.
And
Which
you
is
will be-
challenging.
you will be judged severely if you choose to do evil.
For every action.
Mm-hmm. Because in this game, it very much gives you a choice.
It very much does. It lays that
The-
choice before you, like, first thing.
The choice isn't always obvious what the good or bad thing is.
How
to
to get there isn't obvious.
Mm-hmm.
The choice is obvious, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Toriel walks you through how to spare something.
Immediately
In the-
after Flowey tells you how to kill something.
Mm-hmm.
So those are your two options.
Yeah. I feel like for me, and then when I'm sure a lot of other people played it too, I was just like, okay, because I was sort of vaguely aware of how the morality system works. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to kill you, but you're literally not letting me do anything else. So I was like,
There was always a way.
yes.
They're
If you paid attention to certain hints, it becomes pretty apparent how you have to do it.
In hindsight.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
But at the time playing it the first time, I was just like, what, like, how
And-
long, like, what's the deal here?
And that's the way it's designed.
yeah.
It's designed to give you that hard choice and almost force your hand to
Mhm.
to kill that first boss.
Yeah.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
So well put together.
Let's see. Any other truths I guess we can pull from the game?
If you're nice to people, they will like you.
I mean,
If you're like nice beyond like reason,
Mm-hmm.
like you are with some of these monsters who are doing literally everything in their power to kill you,
mm-hmm.
and you continue to show mercy to them, like that has an impact.
Yeah.
That really changes a
like
person.
like
or a
Undyne is
monster.
hell bent on your death, but you go to her house to like make friends and you're like unreasonably nice to this person that tried to murder you,
Mm-hmm.
and it works out. You eventually reach her.
Yep.
It's this.
Even a being as utterly depraved and just outside of anything resembling
So
goodness,
detached.
like Flowey, you can get him to reconsider if you spare him in the neutral ending. He's like, all this violence, all this killing, was it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
And so he thinks about it if you decide to spare him. So be merciful to people.
Yes, mercy
It has an
is
impact.
always the best option.
Yup. Even when it is incredibly difficult.
Especially when it's incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
It makes it all the more impactful when your life is literally being threatened.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness. What is good
Temmie
about this
Village.
game?
Now that's
Hoy!
beauty.
It's goodness.
It's the radiance of goodness and beauty. Let's be honest here.
You-
You have the opportunity to pay for Temmie's college.
yeah, you can fund Temmie going to college.
I did send Temmie to college.
Oh, you did?
I
did.
said, Temmie, I don't have enough money to send you to college right now, but I'm literally gonna go grind in Hotland for like half an hour so that I could send you to college.
Funny thing is, what you actually could do is you could buy like the Temmie flakes for $1 and then sell them back for $3,
Yep.
and then send her to college with the money you make.
Yep.
Or if you get there's like when you try and get the artifact, but you're holding too many dogs, and then the annoying dog falls out of your pocket and leaves the dog residue. You can like use that to spawn infinite items and sell that to Temmie so that you can pay for her college. That's this game, man.
And then she sells you a super powerful armor item once she goes to college.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
So-
the armor reduces in price every time you die.
Ah.
So the worse time you're having with the game, the cheaper it is.
Mm.
So yeah. That and
Um,
there's just all the really good characters. You got this. You can tell that Sans and Papyrus are brothers that genuinely love each other, even though they get on
Mhm.
each other's nerves. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you've got like just all these good characters that you make friends with over the course of this adventure. That's like because of your mercy, you've kind of converted them. You've your mercy has shown them that maybe fighting the humans isn't a good idea.
There's also just so many dogs,
So many dogs. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. In
especially in Snowden area.
Mm-hmm.
They're like these blind dogs, but they can smell. So they,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They come up and sniff you. Hey, smells like a human. Let's beat him up. And then you roll around in the snow a little bit, and they're like, "Oh, it smells like a puppy."
Yeah, that's just
A
man,
puppy that pets me back.
This is like the most meta game
it's
I've seen.
so fun.
Beauty. Music is
The soundtrack,
definitely
man.
jumps to mind.
I can 10 out of 10 can recommend one of the best soundtracks of
Even
the
though
past
the art
decade,
style
I'd
is
say.
simple, like the character design is still kind of endearing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like
Like-
that simplicity allows for, strangely enough, a lot of depth to each character. And it's sort of
When you're not focused like so intently on every little detail, it allows you to put in details that really matter.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
everything is very intentionally
Which
done.
is very much the design mindset of those old 8 and 16-bit games. It's like you only had so many pixels per sprite to work with, so what you put in there had to really count.
yeah.
And so
This
this
game
game
is
kinda-
very intentional. Everything about it.
absolutely.
Likewise, the music, they only had so many bits to work with in the music. They could only have 2, maybe 3 lines. So
Now-
they could have like Undertale plays with that a little bit, but still kind of uses that
That kind of
mindset in
yeah,
its composition.
that design philosophy where it's like you've got the main melody, then like the counter melodies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it was written for the NES, but then like performed using, modern synthesizers and
Mhm.
stuff. So it has the depth and color of a like modern MIDI, but with the design philosophy and like simplicity of like an NES or Super Nintendo song.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really catchy, really, really charming. Can't recommend listening to this enough.
Wasn't the guy like originally like a producer?
No.
Or no,
No,
what am I thinking of something else?
He's a musician, sort of by trade.
Right.
And he happened to do like some Earthbound hacks in high school and stuff. So
Yeah.
he's familiar with game development from that angle.
Mm-hmm.
And he
But,
was
like
like
primarily he considers himself a composer, from what I understand.
As a matter of fact, he recently wrote one song for Pokemon Sword and Shield, like the post game battle tower,
Mm-hmm.
and he did like the entire soundtrack for another smaller RPG that Game Freak did. He also he was the guy that remixed Megalovania for when it was put in Smash.
Oh yeah.
So the remix of Megalovania in Smash was made by Toby Fox.
Because Sans is a skin of Mii Fighter you can do in
Yeah.
Smash. I guess before we get-
Undertale was such a hit in Japan because it so much mirrors that old style of JRPG.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sakurai invited Toby Fox over to his house, and they just like hung out and
He
said,
played
"Hey,
Smash.
you wanna put a song in Smash?"
Of course, why would you say no to that, right?
Oh yeah. Unity. What ties this game together?
Well, for one thing, it was made primarily by one guy, so he had this very
Yeah.
singular vision. And like we've said before, the entire game, even the gameplay itself, even the act of saving and reloading a file, serves the story.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about this game, like, leans toward that central thesis of the game.
Mm-hmm. And like a vision, like a singular, clear vision, is something I can really respect in
Absolutely.
a creator. Because often, like movies tend to be movies or games or other media that aren't very good, or where like the vision is sort of like vaguely there but blurry and sort of scatterbrained, and
Filtered through several layers of corporate and other
Oftentimes, yeah.
behind the scenes stuff.
or like a lot of like when we're disappointed in a medium, like some sort of content on a medium, it's because oftentimes we see how good it could have been if it had managed not to muddle through all of this. Hobbit.
Sequel
Movies.
trilogy.
Yeah. But like,
But in this particular case, you had one guy with a clear vision and a
Mhm.
story he wanted to tell and a point he wanted to make, and everything he made serves that goal, from the character designs to the music to the battles to the very game systems it's built on. It's so cohesive in like tearing down that fourth wall and holding a mirror up to the player
yeah.
and saying, "Look what you did. You saved the underground.
Yeah.
You killed those people. You made these choices in the game."
So this game being one of the inspirations for why we even made this podcast to begin with, it's like we like to explore and think deeply about the media we consume instead of just simply mindlessly consume it. And so that's a sort of philosophy this game
Right. Think
also
about
embodies.
the way you consume media, the way you participate in
Mm-hmm.
things.
Think about the way you approach life affects others.
Mm-hmm.
Think about ways you can resolve a conflict with an aggressive, bicep flexing
Seahorse guy.
monster thing. What could I do to like? Which one of these options presented before me would resolve this conflict? It like teaches you to think about how your actions are going to affect people.
Mm-hmm.
Because often the common refrain is video games are played out of the sense of escapism, right? Like you are sort of exiting yourself to inhabit another character for a bit.
This plays with
metaphorically,
that idea.
so I
Literally.
can do
And
away
in
with
fact,
consequences for a little bit.
It often acknowledges that you are still the one behind the reins,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and puts that in front of your face from time to time,
Yep. So yeah.
which is a philosophy we have talked about extensively on this flippin' cast.
Mm-hmm. On the freaking
R-
pod.
On the freaking pod. The flippin' cast. See the Sword Art Online episode for
Oh
more
yeah.
on that.
That was a while ago.
Oh man, that's like early days. We've been doing this. This may as well. Let's just call this the anniversary episode because close enough. I'm pretty sure it's about.
I mean, we started recording right before Lent happened
Yeah,
last.
and we find
last
ourselves
year.
there again. So, to those of you, to the two of you who have been listening all the way since this has been year one. So
More or
thanks,
less.
Thanks for listening.
More or less. We
Close enough.
released our first episode on February 10th
Okay.
of
Okay.
last year.
So this is probably roughly the anniversary when we actually physically recorded the first episode.
We yeah.
So yeah, thank you. I mean, I would say this is brought to you by you, but it's really not. We did this because we wanted to, but we appreciate people who have taken the time to give us feedback and listen to our episodes and encourage
Speaking of
us. And all that
feedback
stuff.
and listening to episodes, where can they do that sort of thing?
They can listen. Well, first of all, thank you for listening to the Palladium Papists. That's us. You can listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Pal Papists. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, or suggestions for future episodes, email us at palladiumpapists@gmail.com. We have a couple of submissions for review, or at least one submission for a review.
Did we now? Very exciting.
We were asked to by the same person. The initial
Same
request that we eventually got to. So we may
Hey,
eventually get to
it's
this.
We may have to move up the timetable on this one to keep the
Yeah.
audience appeased.
Yeah. So stay tuned, I guess, on that. Stay tuned. So talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.